So you got fired because of AI and efficiency. But listen, before you go and burn all your bridges and go on social media and flame your old company, you should probably hear this, because it turns out that a lot of the mass firings we've seen for AI may be premature. But there are some key facts you should know before you go and get rehired. More on that in a moment, because this is important to understand when you try to go and get rehired at your previous job. But let's look at some examples. We look at Google, for example. Google this year actually rehired a significant portion of their previous software engineers. About 1 in 5 of the Google engineers that were hired at Google this last year were actually rehired. They were previous employees. So again, you may not want to go and blast your old boss on Twitter before you consider you might be working back there again. But guys, listen, it doesn't just stop at Google. In 2024, Klarna froze hiring and laid off half of their customer service staff. But then a few months later, the whole system broke down. The AI quality control, the response they were getting from customers wasn't good enough. So what do? They had to go and rehire. And where do you think these companies are going to start to hire people? Well, they're going to look at who was working with us in the past. I can tell you, as someone who runs a few different small businesses and works with different companies to build out marketing systems, training staff is really tough. Training them on the tech stack, training them on the messaging, it is very difficult. It is time consuming. It's tough. And so if I know that I can hire someone that I used to work with in the past, it's very, very simple. I can skip all that training time. So again, just because you get laid off from a place now doesn't mean it's forever. But again, there are some things you need to know about getting rehired back, because the job market is really shifting outside of an employee type of situation and into a gig economy. Again, more on that in a moment. I want to give you a couple more examples here, because this is interesting. Just this week, Salesforce backtracked. They had actually laid off half of their customer service staff earlier this year, and they just announced that they're having trouble with quality control. The AI agents are just not doing what humans were able to do. So these companies went super, super fast, and now they're kind of saying, ooh, well, maybe we made a mistake. But get this, they're not even alone. Duolingo, IBM, even McDonald's have backtracked on the mass adoption of AI. Now, again, this doesn't mean that AI is not going to impact your job now. It doesn't mean it's not going to impact it in the future. These AI systems are getting better and better and better every single day. And so, you look at Moore's Law, the amount of compute is just getting exponentially better over time. Now, again, you might say, great, fantastic. All is not lost. I can actually go and get my old job back. In fact, a few weeks ago, we covered CEOs that actually predict 2026 is going to be a boom year. You can check out that video here where companies are saying, actually, we're going to start hiring a bunch of new people in 2026, which is pretty exciting. But before you get excited, you're like, yes, I'm going to get my old job back. It's going to be amazing. I get to see Jennifer again. I love Jennifer. But before you get all gassed up, you need to understand that what's happening with a lot of these companies is they're not rehiring you back as an employee. They're rehiring you back as an independent contractor. And that is quite a bit different. Being a contractor is quite a bit different from being an employee. And listen, I've been a contractor for the past, almost 5 years now. I quit my day job. I started running my own business, and I have, several different projects that I'm working on, several different clients that I'm working with. I'm focused on marketing and media production, whatever. That's not what's important. But what is important is that you understand that your role as a contractor is different, and there are some pros and cons. First, let's look at why are companies hiring people back as contractors? Well, on their side, the costs are lower. They don't have to pay payroll tax. They don't have to cover health insurance, retirement. They don't have to cover unemployment insurance. It's a lot cheaper. They don't have to cover all these benefits. And that helps them to lower their costs. It also makes it easier to lay you off. There's no severance. They can just be like, we're not going to pay you for your duties anymore. That's a problem. It also, as a side note, keeps their headcount lower, which is more attractive to investors. They say, oh, wow, look at the profits. They don't have all this employment bloat. So there are some advantages to these employers. And now you might say, Well, that sucks for me. I'm not going to get all those benefits that I had before. That's a problem. But check this out. There are some advantages to being a contractor, and I'm going to share some of the advantages both on paper and that I've seen from personal experience. And again, you should know this. If you're working as a contractor, you need to know this stuff so you can maximize your experience, because again, we're moving into a gig economy. Companies are doing this left and right. They are hiring contractors. And so you need to understand how to maximize your position, because you do have a good position. I think about it this way, a queen when we talk about chess, a queen in my hands is not going to be the same as a queen in the hands of Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player in the world. Shout out to all my chess fans out there. My kids hate it when I watch chess on YouTube, but I think it's interesting. Anyway, before I nerd out on chess, the point I'm trying to make is that understanding your power as an independent contractor is important, because it's very, very possible, albeit likely, that you will be generating income as an independent contractor in the future. Okay, so what are the advantages? Well, one of the advantages is that, guys, contractors typically get a higher hourly pay. For all the reasons that we mentioned previously as to why companies hire contractors, because they don't have to pay all those benefits. Well, because they don't have to pay the benefits, that gives you more leverage. In fact, I've seen statistics that contractors get paid 20 to 70% more than regular employees. That's a big advantage for you, and understanding that helps you when you go to the negotiation table. If you were, again, working at a company before as an employee, they say, hey, we want to bring you back as a contractor, you can absolutely 100% negotiate a much higher level of compensation for the reasons I mentioned. They don't have to pay the benefits. It's easier to lay you off, looks better for investors. And again, by the way, they don't have to train you. I really can't emphasize how important that advantage is, not needing to train you. Again, if you decide to go on Twitter and blast them as being bloodthirsty capitalist pigs, well, that might hurt your chances a little bit. So don't burn those bridges quite yet. All right, let's continue. What are some other benefits? Listen, being an independent contractor basically means that essentially you run your own business. You are now a business owner. And so there are benefits to being a business owner. For example, in my case, I can pay for internet. I can pay a percentage of property from my business. I can pay for my cell phone. In some cases, I can even pay for food and for travel on my business account. And this helps me to basically write off certain expenses. If you're driving your vehicle, you might be able to write off some of your car expenses. There's a lot of things that you pay for day to day. As long as they have a direct impact on your ability to perform your work duties and run your business, well, you can write that off. Again, you should probably talk to an accountant about that, because the last thing you want is the IRS knocking on your door. Regardless, understanding that as a contractor, as a business owner, there are some advantages. Understanding that can really maximize the amount of money you're putting in the bank. Again, you negotiate a better deal. Let's say you're getting paid 50% more, and you're able to write it off on your taxes because you're a business owner. Big advantages there. Also, generally speaking, you're gonna get more autonomy at work. You can work remote. You don't typically have set hours. But what you are going to be graded on is results. And I think this is important. This is something I've been really harping on for all you guys, is understand that you're not, in this new economy, in this new world, you don't just want to show up and clock in and clock out. You have to be results. At the end of every month or the end of every couple of weeks when I invoice clients, I am very clear on the inputs and the outputs that occurred during that month. This is what I did. This is what me and my team accomplished. These are the outputs, these are the KPIs that we're hitting. Keeping track of that is very important, because career stagnation can be a concern. You're not exactly going to get promoted as a contractor. You might be able to take on new problems within the organization, but typically what's going to happen is when you're hired as a contractor, you solve some problems for company X, and then you say, okay, well, now that I'm good at that, maybe I can go and sell my services to company Y, or maybe you can start to onboard other contractors or employees into your business so that you can scale up and service better. I'll give you an example One of the tasks, some of the tasks that I perform for clients would be like ad management. Sometimes I'm doing it, sometimes I'm hiring other people to manage the ads on my company payroll. Video editing. I don't really edit videos anymore. I have people on my team that edit the video, so I'm able to scale up my efficiency. The client, as long as the client's happy, as long as they're getting the results, that works. Because again, when they hire you, they're hiring a business entity. At least that's the way that I see it. And then, again, you may not be promoted within your organization. However, what you can do, as long as you're keeping receipts on what you're able to accomplish, well, you can take that and you can turn around to other companies and say, look what I did for company X. I can do the same for you, if not better. Here is the proof. And so you're able to start to scale up your efficiency, the problems you solve. So for example, if you were able, like I'm in a position now where I'm trying to take a company from 3.5 million ARR, I want to bring them to 10 million. That's the goal, or I should say 6 million over the next 12 months. So assuming we're able to achieve that, well, then I can go to another company and say, listen, I was the head of marketing of this company. We were running ads here, here, and here. We were doing social media here, 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 and here. We were showing up in Google. This is how we were showing up on ChatGPT. I can go to these companies and say, this is what I was able to accomplish here. I can do the same for you and bring you from 3 to 6. And because I have receipts, I can actually charge a lot more, maybe even double what I was charging the company before. And knowing your value is a big deal. It'll bring up more opportunities, whether it's more cash on hand, or maybe even equity in a company. If we're able to say something like, if I'm able to bring your company from here to there, what can you give me back? So again, guys, these are really, really important things to understand. I thought it's really, really interesting that we're seeing these companies, all these AI companies, or all these businesses that were leveraging AI and firing people for AI are actually having buyer's remorse. And that's not to say this is forever. It's not to say that AI is not going to take a big part of your job. It is going to change every single job, no doubt. You know this, I know this. However, understanding this new dynamic that's evolving, people getting fired and then rehired as contractors, know your power, boys. Know and understand your power. Guys, if you like today's video, thanks for liking and subscribing. Make sure you check out my newsletter. It's completely free at aiupdate.ai. It's completely free. I just want you to win. I want you to crush it. So go to aiupdate.ai. We can all win together. Lots of tools, lots of suggestions on how to maximize your power. And if you like this video, you like yesterday's video where we talk exactly about what Salesforce is doing when it comes to firing and rehiring. We go deep into that story. Go check it out right here. All right, boys, Merry Christmas Eve. I will see you tomorrow. Peace.